Alright, let's talk about something that completely caught me off guard at a recent hacker camp, BornHack Radio. Now, when you think of hacker camps, you probably picture soldering irons, code on screens, and maybe some LED art. But a full-blown FM radio station? That's not something you see every day. And honestly, it's one of those ideas that's so simple, yet so brilliant, it makes you wonder why it's not done everywhere. What makes this really interesting is that BornHack Radio wasn't just a side project, it was a completely analog, over-the-air broadcast. No streaming, no digital backups, just good old-fashioned radio waves. They were transmitting at 5 watts ERP from a vertical antenna stuck on a mast at the highest point of the camp. Personally, I think there's something almost poetic about that. In a world where everything is digital and on demand, there's a certain charm to something that's ephemeral, that exists only in the moment. I mean, who knows if anyone outside the camp was even listening? But that's part of the magic, it didn't need a massive audience to feel special. One thing that immediately stands out is the lack of music licensing. Now, you might think that's a limitation, but in my opinion, it was a feature. It forced the programming to be hyper-focused on the hacker community. No generic playlists, no filler, just pure, unfiltered content. From talk shows to live feeds from the speaker tent, and even a robotic numbers station that felt like something out of a spy movie. What this really suggests is that sometimes constraints breed creativity. If you take a step back and think about it, this is the kind of thing that happens when you let a bunch of hackers loose with a radio station. They don't just play by the rules, they redefine them. The studio setup was surprisingly low-tech, which I found fascinating. Just a mixing desk, some microphones, and a Coleman shelter as the studio. It wasn't exactly soundproof, but that added to the charm. What many people don't realize is that radio doesn't need to be fancy to be effective. It's about the content, the voice, the connection. And speaking of voices, I have to admit, I had a blast bringing my old university radio days back to life. I even did a live commentary of a pixel flood screen, which I'm pretty sure is a first in the history of radio. Editing the audio was a breeze compared to video. Just record, drop it into Audacity, and you're good to go. It reminded me of how straightforward and immediate radio can be. Last time I did anything like this, it involved tape and razor blades, talk about a throwback. But here's the thing, in 2026, when everything is recorded, streamed, and archived, there's something liberating about content that just disappears into the ether. It gives the creators, and the listeners, a sense of freedom that's rare these days. This raises a deeper question, what happens to content when it's not immortalized? Does it lose its impact, or does it gain something by being fleeting? Personally, I think it does both. It's a reminder that not everything needs to be permanent. BornHack Radio was more than just a radio station, it was an experience. And I really hope it's not the last time we see something like this at a hacker camp. From my perspective, this is the kind of innovation that keeps the community spirit alive. It's raw, it's analog, and it's a beautiful reminder of what radio can be when it's not overproduced or overthought. So, here's my closing thought. BornHack Radio wasn't just a broadcast, it was a moment. A moment that felt like a return to a simpler time, when radio was about connection, not just technology. It was about community, about creativity, and about the joy of creating something out of nothing. And honestly, I can't wait to see where this goes next.